Obviously, when it comes to UT, we did make some interesting changes when it came to renaming the RLM building, which had been a long fight for almost like 30 years.
You don't have to go to a party, whereas a protest, no, you don't have to go, but it's for a good cause.
These events don't stem from singular causes. It's from systemic racism for years and years and years and years that has failed to be addressed.
I do not think that defunding police is the answer. I think that we just need to try to increase our recruitment, try to increase the diversity of police department.
Brought the National Guard in response to protesters saying that, you know what, yes, we care about racial equity. Let's just bring violent, armed officers to quell your concerns.
During the pandemic, George Floyd's death at the hands of the police re-sparked the Black Lives Matter movement, with countless protests pushing the conversation of racial tensions and police reform in the U.S. to the forefront. We spoke with UT students from different backgrounds and experiences about their thoughts on the evolution of the movement and how it influenced who they voted for in the November election.
Huge supporter of Black Lives Matter movement. I'm from Minnesota. I'm from Eden Prairie, which is about 25 minutes outside of Minneapolis. So I was really close, of course, to the epicenter this summer with the unjust murder of George Floyd.
I've always been in support of Black Lives Matter. You know, being Black, I know how we're, even like all minorities, you know, how we're treated different from, it's in different ways, yes, but we're all treated different from white people, specifically Black people in the eyes of like police brutality. So I definitely do think that Black Lives Matter is important.
I completely support the movement as it's been evolving throughout the last few months. These are just people just asking for basic human decency.
I am supportive of the idea that Black Lives Matter. I believe that there have definitely been cases of injustice that needs to be addressed. Bad apples definitely need to be removed. Black Lives Matter, that is true. However, the distinction I make is I don't support Black Lives Matter, the organization that was behind the movement.
A lot of people who choose to stay out of politics were forced to confront their beliefs and decide whether or not it's something that they support. So I think that the Black Lives Matter movement was extremely justified and past long overdue.
It's definitely an interesting thing where we're looking to see a lot of people doing either performative actions and also doing systemic actions. I think obviously when it comes to UT, we did make some interesting changes when it came to renaming the RLM building, which had been a long fight for almost like 30 years. But also we've seen not as many changes made when it comes to stuff about like the Painter Hall issue and or the Eyes of Texas issue.
We do understand, like we've had the talk where, you know, if we get pulled over, the regimen that we need to follow.
When we allocate more funds to police departments for training or for body cameras, etc., what it does is just increase militarization of the police department. So instead of trainings on how to help someone in a mental health crisis, how to interact with certain people, how to not brutalize people, what they do is by tear gas, and that's not effective.
I do not think that defunding police is the answer. I think that we just need to try to increase our recruitment, try to increase the diversity of police department, and try to match the precincts they patrol to the communities they are from as best as they can.
I think get really scared when they hear the term defund the police, when in reality, a lot of it's talking about, okay, let's invest into other community resources as a whole and different emergency response teams to more effectively serve the community.
Instead of wasting those sources on a group of people that we have come to learn don't always protect and serve their communities, but rather putting it to specialized people who understand the issues going on and are better suited to help their communities.
In the case of Breonna Taylor, like that protocol was like, what the heck? That didn't need to happen. And I understand, you know, accidents do happen. Sometimes they are going to mess up, but that was an easily preventable issue.
A lot of these issues when it comes to police brutality or discriminatory practices or racial injustice, this isn't old stuff. This is like America like 101, right? Like we've been dealing with these same issues and these same problems for such a long time.
So you have people, you know, over here going to parties during the pandemic and like those large gatherings, which that's unnecessary because you don't have to go to a party, whereas a protest, no, you don't have to go, but it's for a good cause. I also think a lot of people that were looting weren't there for Black Lives Matter. I'm pretty sure they were just there to take advantage of the situation and just saw that people were robbing and looting and just wanted to join in on that.
Martin Luther King Jr. was right that when they go low, you go higher. I feel that doing peaceful marches that show unity, like through the streets is much more effective than rioting and trashing private businesses. It just gives the far right ammo to completely discredit everything they're talking about.
I think a lot of people also, they're like, oh, I don't get why they did this. It's like, of course you don't get it because you've never been there. You've never been in that experience. You've never been disenfranchised in that way.
Instead of focusing on how they're expressing their frustrations, we should be focusing on why they feel that way. Why do they do this? What are the underlying causes of their frustration?
This country was built on the backs of Black and Indigenous people of color, especially Black people. And at the end of the day, however they see fit in reclaiming their justice, I'm going to defer to them.
The Trump administration, he's handled like our overall race relations in our country absolutely horribly. I mean, obviously not denouncing white supremacy, that's like table stakes. Like that's like, you would expect that, and that just like was not done remotely. And I think that his actions often encourage and act as a catalyst for a lot of the counter movement attacks that we see to issues like Black Lives Matter and stuff. Obviously he like named like the Proud Boys and stuff.
President Trump has gone to sign multiple executive orders to try to reform policing, into the police reform that many Black Lives Matter activists would want. He was trying to encourage non-lethal methods of containment. For example, forbidding like the knee hold.
Brought the National Guard in response to protesters saying that, you know what, yes, we care about racial equity. Let's just bring violent, armed officers to quell your concerns. And I think that says enough in and of itself.
It's not going to address anything systemically to put Joe Biden in office. It's not the end of the work we're doing, but it's just a ground that I would feel more comfortable starting from.
People often bring up Kamala's record when it comes to disproportionately like arresting Black Americans when I think it's like really petty like marijuana charges and stuff. And Biden signing the crime bill, a lot of the pressure that they're hearing or they're getting from their party is going to force them to sway a lot of their policies in the direction that I'd like to see much more effectively than what I'm seeing from obviously the Republican ticket as a whole.